I'm showing here the work of one of 18 students at RMIT in VUW in New Zealand who have been proposing possible ways of landscape architecture dealing with cities undergoing climate change, seeing them as an opportunity to make very positive contributions and perhaps rethink cities. On the left here, you see, this has indeed changed. Are there more than 3 images here?
Yes.
We see a double lock placed in the harbour just before Docklands in the river. I'm sorry, because my images came in here. This is a better place to start. On the left, we see 4 images of Melbourne in various states of inundation. The bottom one with all the red on it, the red stands for danger, is what happens if you have a hypothetical 3-meter sea level rise flooding the city. The second last one shows the floods of 2005 on the left there. On these images here, you can see Melbourne as it actually was in 2005 when the water came right up and threatened the playground along South Bank. And this was a river which had absolutely no obstructions, no seawater pushing back at it. It was already battling to get out. On the right, you see Eva's analysis of rivers, of the bridges and how they would be impacted on. That little white mark is the lock that Eva placed to stop water getting through, so that the city, CBD itself, would in this initial move, would be saved if seawater rose. However, she immediately realized then that you then had this problem of the river coming up behind and not being able to escape. And so far, we haven't managed to find another way of exiting the Yarra's waters out of the river in times of inundation from a storm. So what she did then was identify in these green patches large retention basins where in times of flood, like has been happening in Germany and Holland, you allow the river to run sideways into areas that at present are used for other purposes. For example, Scots College. And then this solved one problem in times of flood. However, she then realized that behind that there was the Upper Yarra, and she invented a dam just down from Dytes Falls, which allowed her to then trap water and carry it down through, in a dotted line you'll see, along the middle of the river and out through the lock in a huge pipe that runs in the bottom of the river and would emerge out through the lock and out into the open sea. This has been achieved in Singapore recently with the biggest pumps that have ever been evolved. I'm terrified to make this go any further. One image, no, not going to work. The lock that she produced then had, to summarize, 6 enormous pumps in it which would actually take water out through underneath the lock so that fresh water would emerge into the sea through this pump system. This, so far, is the only way we can think of in Melbourne that would actually solve the city from the sort of inundation that's going to happen to all the major cities in the world should we have this kind of sea level rise as projected. What does this show about landscape architecture? It shows really like what the function of this sort of work is in fact envisioning, because this kind of exercise makes visible abstract thought that's usually buried in reports in various forms that are inaccessible to people. These sort of images, if they run more smoothly than this presentation has, make it available for non-design or scientific people to see the sort of consequences that are going to happen in cities. Thank you.